The president presented the 2022 appropriation bill of 16.4 trillion, approximately, just the other day. 6.2 of that budget is deficit budget that will be financed through borrowing. How sustainable is that?
You know, our Nigerian conversations have been going round and round, cyclical, just turning around on one spot. We finance the budget from a variety of ways. Even if Nigeria used all its revenues from its known sources today, not drive the kind of growth that Nigeria deserves. It means that there has to be a creative way of driving economic expansion. The first and foremost thing, as I have said earlier, is how do we expand production? It is production which generates jobs, which gives people the income that you can tax to provide the services that the budget is supposed to be delivering. We live in a case of shrinking production. 28th May 2019, I believe, Forbes magazine published an article, Nigeria, Africa's money losing machine. That article basically said, if you have brains, don't invest in Nigeria. Why is that so? One, because regulatory capture is such in Nigeria that one man can wake up one day, say one thing, and your entire investments are gone. We've not been able to address those issues the way we build our system. So foreigners are very reluctant to invest in Nigeria, except where the thing is so this thing that they have to hedge their best and hedge their best. That means they should be milking literally the system. Okay, so it doesn't have to be foreigners. After all, in the 50s, the great economist out of Columbia University, Ragnar Knoxe, used to argue that capital is made at home. Domestic savings, you look at Singapore, massive domestic savings and investment. I think you can manage that with the kind of quality of elite that we have here. Politicians are trying to take as much revenue from the system as possible. Are they investing types? No. They're buying new fancy cars. They're buying homes abroad. So, capital made at home? You can't. Singapore, savings were forced. People were forced to save. And it was those domestic savings, the housing fund, the backbone of the drive of Singapore's ascendancy was the Housing Development Board. The same housing fund we had here, they had. They generated savings. Where is the money in our housing fund? Where is it? Your big men have shared the money one way or the other. So there's a collapse of culture in Nigeria. That means that the things that you can do to bring in capital from within or without are frustrated. And so the only reason your government functions is because crude oil revenues somehow managed to come in. And we're living in energy transition age, in which a Total has now written down all of its crude assets in Canada to zero 18 years from now. It has changed its name to Total Energies because it doesn't want to be remembered as an oil company anymore. And this is one of the great giants of that business. And so we're still depending on that crude oil to finance these budgets. And we're borrowing heavily against expectations that we'll get some more from the crude oil and services, amortization. So how do you begin to talk about sustainability with that? You got to see the expanded production for. Yeah, in terms of ratios, maybe it's not the biggest problem in the world. The key is targeted or targeting. I'm not one against borrowing at all. But you borrow to invest. And you see the output that will come from the investment. Or if you're going to borrow, say, for infrastructure, you can see the facilitation of output by the infrastructure that will generate the revenues that can amortize that borrowing. Today in the world, and there's a very famous French economist today who is perhaps the leading authority on capital. His name is Thomas Piketty. And Thomas Piketty, in his Utomi, Capital in the 21st Century, and Capital and Inequality, and other books, essentially argues that there is more capital available today than at any time in human history. The big problem is that capital in a few hands. A couple of young men in California own more capital than the entire continent of Africa. And so Piketty, who's been referred to by some as the new Marx, argues for a redistribution of capital. And you know that's not likely to happen. My take on things is, if you prepare yourself well, you can become the bride of that capital in those few hands. And the capital will flow into you. All you have to do is look beautiful enough for Mark Zuckerberg to come and jog on your Ikoyi link bridge and use it to show the world that you are here. But what did Nigeria do after Mark Zuckerberg came here? We then begin to ban things like Twitter and things like that. Okay. Yes, you think you're going to attract that capital here? I just think that the quality of leadership we have in Nigeria is not smart enough to see the consequence of their behavior through. They act on the emotion of the moment and they sentence their country to many years of servitude.
Prof, there is this projected GDP growth of 4.2%, and inflation is pegged at 13% in the budget. Do you think that the budget is realistic, given that we are not productive?
Well, you've answered your own question. What do you want me to answer? You know, you see, again, another refrain from me is that there are lies. Much bigger than lies, there are damn lies. Much bigger than damn lies, there are statistics. Anybody can use statistics to say anything they want to say. If you want to know where you're going, touch the ordinary man on the street and ask him, is your life better today than it was yesterday?
I've not seen the Naira in this weak condition. Do you think the CBN policy on the exchange rate is?
My view is a very simple and straightforward one. I've never worried about nominal exchange rates. It's whether it drives production and economic growth. Look, when the yen was 300 and something to the dollar, and it moved, I remember the year the yen became 299 or 199. Japanese were upset because they didn't want the naira, the yen to get strong because it made their exports cheap because they were producing. In Nigeria, it's not a conversation because we're not producing. So the real problem remains production, not the nominal value of the naira. But there are institutional issues. Okay? The institution of markets, which we labored so hard to build in this country. Everybody calls Babangida all kinds of names. But you know, Babangida displayed political sagacity that allowed the foreign exchange market to emerge. And that saved the drift of the Nigerian economy. Now,